Ang mahirap nito, Dick, is paano yung mga tao na tumanggap na lang sa PCR test ninyo na positive sila and had to endure a confinement of 2 weeks when all along tested negative pala sila.
Takot ako sa Diyos. Takot. Takot ako sa tao. Pero hindi ako duwag, Mr. President. You're a bully. And I'm sorry, Mr. President. The Filipino people can fight back against bullies.
You just heard President Rodrigo Duterte unleash another round of attacks against Senator Richard Gordon, this time targeting Red Cross over gaffes in its COVID tests.
Senator Gordon fired back, calling the president a bully. He also recounted his agency's pandemic response efforts. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampa. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with President Duterte's new round of verbal onslaught against Senator Richard Gordon and the Philippine Red Cross.
Gordon just can't take Duterte's blabbering anymore and demanded him to simply do his job. Mayan Los Baños has The Big Story.
President Rodrigo Duterte is not giving Senator Richard Gordon a break. In his talk to the people, Duterte responded to Gordon's cheap politician remark.
I am just a cheap provinciano politician. But my job is to correct and go after public officials, senators na yumaman dahil sa pangurakot.
The president accused Gordon of diverting his 88 million peso pork barrel into the Philippine Red Cross, which he's chairing. Duterte also alleged the PRC of producing inaccurate swab test results, as was confirmed by Health Secretary Francisco Duque.
And had to endure a confinement of 2 weeks when all along tested negative pala sila.
An exasperated Gordon just had enough of Duterte's tirades.
Takot ako sa Diyos. Takot ako sa tao. Pero hindi ako duwag, Mr. President.
Gordon also recounted the PRC's pandemic response efforts.
Sa tulong ng mga donors namin, nakapagbigay ng daan-daan mga oxygen at may regulator, mahal po yun. Doon sa mga taong naghihingalo, di na namin sinisigil.
He also called out Duterte for not using his weekly address to discuss the government's COVID game plan. The senator also criticized anew Duterte's blatant defense of Farmally.
Attorney Duterte is lawyering for his people, the Chinese, and I ask him respectfully, start lawyering for the Filipino people. Do your job, Mr. President.
Meanwhile, over at the Senate hearing on Farmally, former Budget Undersecretary Christopher Lloyd Lau appeared more defiant. He had a heated exchange with Gordon when asked about why the DBM did not check Farmally's contracting capacity.
Hindi mo in-scrutinize, tama?
Mr. Chairman, to
Tama, yes or no?
I scrutinize, Mr. Chair. In fact,
Did
I
you
asked
scrutinize
proof that they can deliver.
the other corporations na Filipino corporation, yung EMS can deliver at 13.50? 13.50 naka-deliver sila, sasabihin mo, they can deliver? Tapos binawi mo, ginawa mo 2 pesos and 35, nagkalugi-lugi yung Filipino corporation? Shame on you.
That is unruly.
Yan ang ginagawa ng presidente mo, binabaliktad lahat.
The Senate found out that the Health and Budget departments have accepted Farmally's test kits that only have a shelf life of 6 months. One of Farmally's executives, Lincoln Ong, has been detained at the Senate until the Blue Ribbon Committee resumes its hearing on Friday. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
To give more clarity on reports of false positive RT-PCR tests conducted by their laboratories, we have on the show Dr. Pauline Obial, head of the Philippine Red Cross Molecular Laboratories. She's joining us via Zoom. Ma'am Obial, Red Cross has released a statement standing by the integrity of your RT-PCR test results. But what do you think may have led to the President questioning the accuracy of these results?
Hello, yes, good evening, everyone. I don't know really who is advising the president regarding our results, but we all from the Department of Health that the peer testing and other variants result in a different test result from the test result that
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Obial.
hello, wala.
But if the
Hello?
President has been flagging Red Cross over alleged gaps in its COVID testing, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee has found that government-purchased test kits went to waste. Tonight's big number is 7,925. That is the number of near-expiry test kits bought by the Health Department and the Budget Department's procurement service, which had expired. DOH Assistant Secretary Nestor Santiago said each test kit can perform around 40 to 50 tests. This would total to more than 370,000 tests. The wasted kits cost about 550 million pesos.
These are the other big stories tonight. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno is set to make a big announcement tomorrow, and sources say it's already set in stone. He is running for chief executive together with Doc Willie Ong as his vice president. The country is currently in its fourth wave of COVID infections, and experts say this is by far the most severe and the longest. And global pop sensations BTS show they are more than just vocals and moves. They went to the UN headquarters in New York to speak about big global issues. Find out more after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Around 3,000 families are affected by granular lockdowns in Metro Manila.
The MMDA says the scheme is effective in trimming down COVID infections. Jenny Dongon has the story.
Ate Marie, may papabili po ba kayo? Wala Wala po. Sige po.
Michelle has taken it upon herself to monitor her neighbors living in this small stretch of Barangay Tangdangsora. They are under granular lockdown after exposure to a COVID-positive patient. Though she's relieved that she is not in quarantine, Michelle knows she has to help.
Magme-message sila. Sasabihin po nila, te, baka pwedeng pabili naman ng ganito. So, hindi ko muna po kinukuha yung pera nila. Inaano ko naman po dito kasi kung meron naman po akong kaibigan doon, papasabi ko po sa bantay na pwedeng pabili na lang ng ganito, pakiabonohan na lang. Pag kinukuha ko po yung pera nila nakalagay sa plastic, ina-alcohol din po namin yun. Saka namin binabato po dito sa mga nakabantay po.
Barangay Chairman Marlo Ulanday said this method is more efficient and practical.
Mas maganda kasi pinaliit natin yung area, no? At mas mamomonitor sila ng maayos.
According to the MMDA, more than 3,000 households have been affected by granular lockdowns in NCR, but assures that no barangay has been shut off. As for aid, 50% will come from the local government. The other half will be shouldered by the DSWD. In NCR, 1,000 food packs have been distributed in the cities of Caloocan, Las Piñas, Parañaque, Pateros, Mandaluyong, Manila, Marikina, Taguig, and Valenzuela.
The first 7 days will be the ayuda coming from the local government units, and then 8 to 14 days it will be the national government through the DSWD, and kung mag-extend pa po yung lockdown, so we will still be augmenting po yung food packs.
For MMDA Chairman Benher Abalos, the scheme is effective.
Magmula noong September 15, pababa na po ang active cases. So napakaganda po ng trend that's although manipis pa rin po, sana magtuloy-tuloy.
There is no decision yet on whether granular lockdown will be extended or not. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
Let's get back to our top story with the President flagging Red Cross over supposedly false positive results. Once again, we have on the show Dr. Pauline Obial, head of the Philippine Red Cross Molecular Laboratories. Dr. Obial, your response to the allegations being raised by Secretary Duque and the President, and are you looking into this matter?
Yes, the Red Cross has done our due diligence in terms of investigating the laboratory procedures. In fact, on September 3, that was when the samples were brought to the lab, we actually did a complete rerun of the 48 samples. And on the first run, 45 turned out positive and 3 negative, while on the rerun, the same thing was recorded in the machine. So we released the results to the Bay Point Hospital.
Okay, so what could have been the basis for the complaints from Malacanang? Do you know the context behind their allegations?
Actually, we don't know the context of Malacanang complaining, but we've had these complaints time and again in the laboratory because a lot of people, like if they test positive, they are in denial. They cannot accept that they are positive because, number one, they are asymptomatic. Number two, they had no history of exposure. Or number three is that they think they did their best to observe the minimum health protocols. And they were very careful. But again, it has time and again happened in the lab, and then we showed to them our systems and procedures, and they even complained to the Department of Health, and COH and our ITM come to our lab and investigate. And so far, they've done it more than 5 times, and they found no breach in our protocols in the laboratory.
Okay. Dr. Pauline Obial, head of the Philippine Red Cross Molecular Laboratories. Maraming salamat po.
Health experts say the country is now seeing its 4th and most severe wave of infections since the start of the pandemic. During the first wave or the onset of the pandemic, cases remained low as the country was still struggling to increase its testing capacity. But around August of last year, cases started climbing as the testing capacity improved. And experts say the second wave of infections was caused by the faster transmission of the virus driven by the D614G strain. The country then saw its third wave of infections early this year due to the Alpha and Beta variants. Though cases in Metro Manila decreased, other regions were experiencing surges. This brings the country to its current state, the fourth wave, most severe and the longest yet. While this is driven by the Delta variant, the Philippine College of Physicians also attributed this to the easing of quarantine measures. The Department of Health says daily infections are expected to peak either later this month or in October.
Even as daily case counts continue to rise, studies here and abroad show that air travel is not contributing much when it comes to the spread of the virus. Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
Air travel is not a super spreader event for COVID-19. At least, that's what data collected by Philippine Airlines show. Data over 3 months showed testing within 3 days before departure greatly reduced the risk of COVID spreading.
Between June to August, of all of the arriving passengers that Philippine Airlines have been able to test, the positivity rate is lower than 1%.
Pulse data matches the findings of a recent real-world study done by the Mayo Clinic and Delta Airlines in the US. That one tracked nearly 10,000 passengers and found only 5 who subsequently tested positive, which translates to an infection rate of 0.05%. The key was testing using PCR within 72 hours before departure. In the Philippine Airlines study, it found that it was mostly the unvaccinated who caught the virus later on. As such, PAL is lobbying the government for new protocols for vaccinated travelers who want to enter the country.
Instead of being tested on the 5th or 7th day, they actually will be tested on the 3rd day. And if they are negative, they can exit the quarantine facility on the 5th day and just continue their quarantine at home.
Currently, travelers coming from countries on the green list can do 7-day quarantines at designated facilities. Everyone else must complete a 10-day facility quarantine with another 4 days at the LGU of their destination or at home. In the new proposal, someone who's vaccinated and tests negative can be home within 4 days.
Wala namang silbing mag-lockdown tayo, zero COVID, pero patay na may ekonomiya natin.
PAL recently filed for bankruptcy protection in the US after the pandemic devastated its business. I'm Pamela Vasquez in UPR, One News.
And now for the big story in sports. From Olympic heroes to icons, gold medalist Heidelin Diaz and the rest of Team Philippines are honored through special edition commemorative stamps. And being the icons that they are, Heidelin has a request for Filipinos amid these trying times. The details in my report. Winning moments captured for posterity. The country's Olympic medalists in Tokyo are immortalized in these commemorative stamps by the Philippine Post Office. The special edition stamps feature Olympic gold medalist Heidelin Diaz, silver medalist Nesty Petesio and Carlo Paalam, and bronze medalist Yumir Marshal. Being the country's first ever Olympic gold medalist, Heidelin's commemorative set featured her winning moments during the historic games.
It will serve as inspiration sa lahat ng mga Pilipino, lalong-lalong na ngayong pandemya. And especially to, kasi nga kasama ko ang ibang atleta.
Another set of stamps were also released which features Heidelin and the rest of Team Pilipinas. Philpost says the stamps offer a fresh and engaging story of Philippine history, culture, and identity.
Sobrang saya po. Kahit pagod po, nandito sila lahat po sa amin. Suporta. Maraming salamat po.
Alos lahat po kami, hindi po namin inasahan tong mga natatanggap po namin ngayon. So grabe, sobrang saya po.
Aside from these commemorative stamps, Philpost said it will also launch Keep the Faith, Be a Hero COVID-19 vaccinated stamps to promote vaccination.
Lahat tayo dapat magtulungan para maging bayani tayo para sa ating bansa. So encourage our citizens to join us and be vaccinated.
Heidelin joined in the call as well, telling Filipinos how they can be a hero for the country.
Sa lahat ng mga fans, please magpa-vaccine na po kayo at rumihistro na rin. At gusto ko lang po sabihin na kayang-kaya natin to, wag po tayong sumuko.
The special Tokyo 2020 Olympics commemorative stamps are available at the Philpost main office in Manila. Gretchen Ho, We Are One News. Time for another quick break. When we return, as the filing of candidacy draws near, word is Manila Mayor Isko Moreno is expected to announce his presidential bid tomorrow. His running mate, Dr. Willie Ong. And global superstars BTS made a strong push for vaccination as they appeared at the UN General Assembly. They even gave fans a treat as they performed Permission to Dance.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Today, the country commemorates the declaration of martial law 49 years ago in the hands of the late strongman Ferdinand Marcos.
Groups are calling on Filipinos to never forget the atrocities during this period, even as some corners are trying to revise history. Pat Mangune with the story.
49 years after former President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, what do the youth know about that period in our history?
Tumatak po talaga sa Marcos is yung mga infrastructures na po na nabuo.
Nakwento po nila sa akin na napakaigpit nga po noon, maraming mga tao na nagagalit sa gobyerno.
Maganda naman po na idulot niya kasi madami po siyang natulungang, may hirap. Marami po silang napatayong mga establishment.
We then asked them to watch personal testimonies of martial law victims, activists who fought against injustices under the Marcos regime.
Umabot sa 24 na araw ang ginawang interrogation sa akin. Interrogasyong may matitinding physical at mental na torture. Ang Russian roulette, ang pinakagrabing mental na torture na naranasan ko. Ipapakita sa akin ang isang bala na ipapasok sa caliber 38 revolver. Paiikutin ang cylinder nito. Tapos itututok sa sentido at kakalabitin. Tatlong beses nila itong kinalabit.
Sampal dito, sampal. Pagka hindi ako sumasagot sa mga tanong. So, sumunod pagka wala pa rin sagot, pinapatindi nila. So, ang ginawa nila sa akin ay inabuso nila ako, sexual. So, sa definition ng Human Rights Reparation Act, ang rape.
Tinorture ako, kinuryente ako sa bayag, at pinasak yung aking hinubad na brief sa aking bunganga para ako hindi na sumigaw habang binubuhusan ako ng tubig.
For some of the young people, this is the first time they've heard of the horrors of martial law. But their opinions remain divided.
Pananaw ko po kasi 50-50. Alam ko po may nagawang mabuti yung martial law, pero alam ko din po merong masamang nadulot sa every individual sa Pilipinas.
Sa video, nagbago po yung pananaw ko kasi yun nga po, may mga nasaktan na kapwa ako Pilipino at kung sino pa yung may mga pinaglalaban, sila pa yung nasasaktan.
According to historian Professor Xiao Chua, the removal of history in the high school curriculum contributed to disinformation on the Marcos regime.
Huwag nating kakalimutan na may mga nangyaring masama sapagkat pag hindi natin naalala yon, uulitin natin yan. At anong klaseng values yung ituturo natin sa mga bata na sila na yung susunod na leader, pag yan ang tumatak sa isip nila, baka gawin din nila.
To memorialize this part of history, the Human Rights Violations Victims Memorial Commission is building the first state-sponsored Freedom Memorial Museum in 2022. It will feature memorabilia from martial law and its victims. It will rise in a 1.4-hectare land in UP Diliman and will be funded from a portion of the recovered ill-gotten wealth from the late President Marcos, worth 500 million pesos.
That clenched fist looks like also like a flower, because what toppled the government at that time in 86 was not violence, but people power in a relatively non-violent resistant movement.
For News 5, Patricia Mangune. We are One News.
A source says it is set in stone Manila Mayor Isko Moreno will announce his presidential bid tomorrow. Word is he has also tapped Dr. Willie Ong as his running mate. Kiko De Mihilio has the stories.
Ako po si Isko.
Ako si Isko.
Ako si Isko. Ako si Isko.
Ako si Isko.
Tayo si Isko.
On Tuesday, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's camp released this video, seemingly looking like a campaign ad.
Keep on trying. Wala namang mawawala sa atin. So, kung nangyari sa akin, pwede rin mangyari sa inyo. Wala nang imposible.
The ad comes a day ahead of an expected big announcement from Isko. It will take place at the Benigno Aquino Elementary School in Tondo, Manila. According to a reliable One News source, Isko is expected to announce his presidential bid for the 2022 elections. The source also disclosed that Dr. Willie Ong, who ran for the Senate in the 2019 polls, will be Isko's vice president. So where does that put Vice President Leni Robredo and even Senator Manny Pacquiao? During Acción Democratico's oath-taking ceremony on Monday, Moreno confirmed that he met with Robredo and Pacquiao as the opposition works to unite itself for a single presidential candidate. Isko said that he's always willing to listen.
I am not in the liberty to discuss the details, but I can confirm there was a meeting. And hopefully there will be more meetings, no, na pwede naming mapag-usapan ng mga bagay. And I'm hopeful decisions will be made in the couple of days now.
Indeed, according to the source, Isko and Leni had a meeting of minds. It's just that they've reached a decision not to run together. It's also still unclear what Robredo's plans would be for 2022. Kiko De Mihilio, we are One News.
BTS just showed that they are more than global pop sensations. They visited the United Nations headquarters in New York, fresh off their appointment as special presidential envoys for future generations and culture. All 7 BTS members took turns in addressing poverty, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Jin sympathized with those struggling to cope with the past 2 years.
보는 것만으로도 기분 좋은 에너지가 느껴지지 않나요? 지난 2년은 사실 저도 당혹스럽고 막막한 기분이 들 때가 있었는데 그렇더라도 let's live on.
RM, meanwhile, commended the youth's resilience and dismissed claims that they're COVID's lost generation.
예상 밖의 상황에서도 길이 잃는 것이 아니라 더 새로운 길을 발견하게 될 것이라고 믿어 의심치 않습니다.
BTS also danced their way in and out the UN headquarters, from the auditorium to the gardens, to the tune of their latest hit. Nick Garcia, we are One News.
I became more of a BTS fan after that visit, and I love how socially aware they are and good in using their platforms, Robbie.
Ako rin, fan na rin ako, hindi mo lang nakikita sumasayo yung pako.
Well, speaking of using your platform, kanina, kasi nag-post ako about register to vote, meron daw renew ng kanyang registration dahil sa post ko sa IG. So sana mag-register na po kayo at mag-share din kayo, no? Habang September pa, dahil magtatapos na po yan ngayong buwan.
Opo, tsaka mahalaga yan, especially on this day. This is a day for us to remember that your voice counts. Never forget kung anong nangyayari pagka hindi tayo nakikilahok. Kailangan tayo lahat makilahok. Kung hindi, kagaya nga po ng sabi ng mga historians, we are bound to repeat history. So, learn, register to vote, and have your voice counted.
Well said, Robbie. That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
At ako naman si Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.